Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Richie and Corn Call here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Unfortunately, I had to stop my Battlefield 6 gameplay to be here with you guys and to talk about the new ice teasers that my boy HJJ just did a video about. So make sure to go check his video out that talks about all these awesome spells for ice. And let me just say, out of all the spell teasers we have seen so far, especially for the schools, I think ice wizards are going to be eating good because these changes are absolutely insane. And again, as I've said before with all these other spell teasers, I have been really happy with the changes that I have been seeing personally, in my own opinion. Also, it is free training point buyback for Wizard101, so make sure to go reset those training points. And yeah, let's jump right into the video. So here we go. And the first things first is Shadow Sentinel. Now let me just say, this is the best thing I think I have ever seen in the entire game. This makes it the most versatile shadow spell, I think, in the entire game for any support wizard. Because, alright, let me cool down real quick, okay? Let me show you something real quick, okay? And I mentioned it in my own videos months ago. I was like, oh, it would be cool if Shadow Sentinel got buffed. So, this is Shadow Sentinel right now, right? This is Shadow Sentinel right now. So, you intercept one critical block for, you know, whatever reason, whatever. And you get minus 10% incoming, right? It sucks. It sucked. This spell sucked. There was no ever good reason to use it because the 10% incoming damage off of your allies, that sucked. You would barely even take off any damage. You're better off either giving them a shield or debuffing the enemy or doing anything else. This spell sucked. So now what they did, in which case I hope they don't nerf it, I hope they don't touch it. This is insane and this is awesome. I really want them to keep this. I'm fingers crossed they keep this. This is the new and improved Shadow Sentinel. This is a monster spell to have if you're a tank wizard, especially if you're an ice tank. Dude, it intercepts 50% incoming damage off of your allies. Do you guys know how broken that is? In a good way, KI, in a good way. That is awesome. You'll finally be able to use this spell and actually benefit your team. This is insane. And it also says a minus 30% incoming damage reduction, which I would assume that's incoming damage reduction, which is really good. So, yeah, this is busted. If you use this in any boss fight or if you use this, I can honestly see this being good for raids, especially if your storm hitter is about to die. I could definitely see this being like a very, very versatile spell. This is insane, dude. Honestly, honest to God. I'm glad I've always had this spell trained up because I've always liked it. But the fact is, the current version sucks, so I never get a chance to use it. This is broken, and I love it. And it will also give you one ice pip. And then the shadow creature, which is the Shadow Sentinel, is basically going to gambit off of any shield that you have. So you can basically give yourself a tri-shield or whatever, and that will basically accept that shadow contract, right? And honestly, even if you don't even do the contract, the fact how you're still using this spell is just insane. And another reason why I'm loving all of these new shadow creatures and the new shadow transformations is that you can do whatever you want as the Shadow Sentinel. Now, if you heal, it's not going to add on any backlash or anything like that. It's just going to have its one contract, and if you don't complete that contract, that's fine. It's just going to take some health away from you. While in the previous version of the shadow creatures, if you do the opposite of what it likes, then it's going to crash out, and then it's going to add a lot of backlash, and then it could potentially one-shot you. So this is awesome, and I have been asking for this, a Shadow Sentinel buff, for years. This is the most perfect spell update, like, ever. Like, this is perfect. There's nothing to change here. It's perfect. I absolutely love it. And I will definitely be running this in my main deck when this update does drop. Okay, so now let's talk about the Shadow Creature variant, right? So that was a transformation. So now this is the variant. It will do 75 shadow damage. All the shadow creatures seem to just do 75 shadow damage. And then it's also going to give you 3 minus 50% shields, right? And then the gambit for this is that it wants charms on the enemies. And that's the shadow contract for that. So we have the shadow version of Abominable Weaver. I'm just going to say this right now. This is insane. So you get the regular version, right? Which, you know, it will do a lot of damage and give you the minus 50 shield, right? And then the shadow creature wants traps on the enemy. So now the second variation of the shadow fused version, right? This will do a 730 base, which isn't really that bad of a damage. But check this out and what it gives you. It gives you not 1, not 2, but 3 minus 80 chromatic shields. That is insane for Ice Wizard. That's it. Okay, that is insane for this spell. Dude, that is busted. Oh my god. Dude, I might have to level up an Ice Wizard. I'm not gonna lie. I will level up an Ice Wizard. I will buy the World Elixirs. I will actually do it, dude. So this is what the regular version is going to look like without the Shadow Pips, right? If you don't fuse it together, it will do, you know, less damage and then still give you that minus 50% shield. And then you have the other variant, which is basically going to gambit off of traps, and then you get a minus 75 chromatic shield. So definitely the Shadow version, of course, is always going to be the better one. But, dude, that's just like, oh my gosh, dude. That is insane. Oh my gosh. Now we got Snowball Barrage, which basically it's the same thing on the top path per pip, you know, same AoE hit. The creature is going to want any debuffs that are on yourself. Pretty interesting. And then for the bottom path with the Shadow Fusion, it will do Divide Spell. It will be a Divide Spell. And then 3 minus 60 shields on yourself. And then, again, it's going to want that little debuff on you if you can do that. So, pretty interesting stuff for Snowball Barrage. Again, Ice Wizards, y'all are eating good, dude. Oh my gosh. I'm going to make an Ice Wizard, dude. And then this is what the regular version looks like. It's alright. It's an X spell. You know, it is what it is. Whatever. But you got Bottom Path, which will also clear 5 debuffs, which is pretty interesting. And then apply the minus 40% shield, then 430 damage, which honestly not bad. I would have to say Bottom Path is actually not that bad. So pretty interesting stuff there. Now over here we got Cataclysm. I'm not going to pronounce that. Climaticism. Climaticism? Is that right? No, I probably mispronounced that. I apologize. But this is what the Shadow Fusion is going to look like. It's the same Divide spell as we had in Mirage, right? Does a lot of damage on top path. If you're especially hitting a single target, the Shadow creature is going to want a debuff on the enemy. So if you go to the bottom path, this will be a Divide spell of a base of 550 ice damage, and then it will apply 3 plus 65% ice traps, which is pretty good. So that is definitely worth checking out as well if you ever have the spellments for that. And then over here, the regular version is just the, you know, low damage and then the plus 60% trap on the target, you know. But then bottom path over here, it's going to gambit off of any charms. So, or not charms, any debuffs. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. And it's also going to give that plus 70% trap. So, pretty cool stuff. Now, over here, we got Shadowhorn. Haven't seen Shadowhorn much in a minute. But this will do 1,000 damage, right? And then it will taunt. The top path, usually for all of these new spells, these will always be like the original like shadow spell. So you would just need to like, you know, have your hand filled up with all of these other shadow creatures so you can fuse them together. But bottom path will do 3 minus 45 weaknesses on the target, and the creature wants any type of traps on the enemy. Now over here we have the regular version over here, which again is gonna do that little bit of a taunt, and then below it's the 3 times gambit off of traps for a minus 40% weakness. Pretty cool stuff. And then we got freeze ray, pretty cool. Over here does a base of 920 or 915. This is an AoE spell. So top path, nothing much is happening, but bottom path is a divide, and that will apply 2 minus 45 weaknesses on the target. And the shadow creature looks like it wants any type of negative charms that are on you. So pretty interesting stuff. The regular version, which won't have the shadow pip, will basically have less damage. You know, it's a 6 pip hit pretty much. I mean, you don't really have to use them if you don't want to. And then bottom path will also clear up to 5 negative charms, and then a minus 20% weakness on the target for 425 base damage. So pretty cool stuff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for Ice Wizard. So if you're an Ice Wizard, this is most definitely a buff. But again, that could be subjective. I know some of y'all in the comments gonna be like, Richard, that's not a buff. That has lower damage than the Wallaroo AoEs. Listen, I'm not talking about AoEs and stuff. I'm talking about this bad boy. This bad boy is busted. And I cannot wait to use this in Test Realm. And I just cross my fingers that they just keep it at that 50%. Don't lower it. Don't even think about lowering it. If you want, hey, I'm not gonna bother you if you want to increase it to 60%. I think that's a little bit much, but that right there is perfect. And I could have sworn in a video one time ago I mentioned how I think it would be cool to have like an interception of like 50% to make it a little bit more versatile. Right now, Shadow Sentinel should be on everybody's radar, especially if you are a support player, because you can tank in a lot of hits for your players. And you might even save somebody's life using this spell, dude. That is awesome. So make sure to check that out whenever it comes on Test Realm. We'll have to wait. I really cannot wait for Test Realm. This is amazing. So I just wanted to make that quick video real quick because, again, that was just like, that was awesome. I'm just so happy about that. So until then, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Or not the comments. The comments. And let me know how you guys are playing with the Wizard101 on console. I see a lot of mixed comments about it, but hopefully you guys are having a good time with it. But until then, I will see you guys later, and yeah, peace out.